Good evening, everyone. My name is Zikaillah Cinta Diramia, and today I'm going to present my research about Sharia-compliant investment location choice and geographical analysis of residential real estate potential in Indonesia's Jabodetabek region. So, in Indonesia, Jabodetabek or Jakarta, Bogor, Depok, Tangerang, and Bekasi City is experiencing a rapid urbanization and increasing residential real estate activity. The two main activities of this residential real estate activity is the resale house activity and rental house activity. Based on the 99 Group Indonesias and Pinhomes report, resale house activity sales grew by an average 2.53%, led by Bogor and Depok City. Meanwhile, the rental house activity for the demands grew by the average 55%, ranging from Depok, Bekasi, and East Jakarta, up until East Jakarta. So, the main reason for this trend is the consumers' interest in areas with proximity to public facilities and better accessibility. And the Bogor, Depok, Tangerang, Bekasi, which is the Jakarta suburban areas regions, serve as a spillover for those unable to afford housing in Jakarta. Therefore, these phenomena are highly attractive for investors to invest in residential real estate for the potential capital appreciation and gain rental income. However, who could benefit from this phenomena? It's the residential real estate investor. The residential real estate investors are not a homogeneous group, but rather are heterogeneous, with household and small-scale private investors. One of the characteristics that differentiate them with institutional investors are their decision-making process. Based on Hassan, Mumtaz, Azagul, and Tasulka, Pyrus, and Sterling et al., their household and small-scale private investors are not purely based on the rational financial calculation, but also by spatial aspect and behavioral aspect. Private and household investors have their decision-making process and aspect considered to utilize the residential real estate phenomena for investment opportunities in Jabodetabek. And based on the theory of planned behavior developed by Adjacent, behavior is influenced by intention, and both intention is influenced by attitude, subjective norm, and perceived behavioral control. Specifically for perceived behavioral control, it's literally influence the behavior of the one who want to plan of behavior. And residential location theory also considers aspects developed by Evans. It's explained the general pattern of residential location and the basic assumption of trade-off theory using the cost minimization and utility maximization principle. And this trade-off is influenced by transport infrastructure and perceived accessibility. Therefore, when this trade-off is improved, the transport infrastructure and perceived accessibility is improved, the decline in the rent values won't be as steep as it seems. Urban development caused by gentrification happens when a previously low-income or underdeveloped area improves, attracting higher-income residents, raising property values, and furthermore upgrading the public infrastructure. And the other value used to analyze the aspect considered in the residential asset investment is perceived Islamic values in investment. Adapted by Antonia based on the Al-Zarqa, Islam have a comprehensive way of life. A perceived Islamic values influence investor behavior by promoting ethical, fair, and halal financial decision-making aligned with Sharia principle under the Muamalah framework. In the special context of residential real estate, these values guide investor preference toward locations that support religious obligations, community ethics, and lifestyle modesty, such as proximity to mosques, Islamic school, and gender-sensitive infrastructure. Rental income generated from this investment must also avoid haram uses, prohibited elements of interest or riba, excessive uncertainty or gharar, and gambling or maisir. Up until now, we conclude several case studies in this research area. For example, the keyword of Jabodetabek, residential real estate, investment decision, private investor, household investor, financial behavior and spatial aspect, theory of planned behavior, residential location theory, and perceived Islamic values. And based on these research keywords, there are several previous studies about those. For example, the theory of planned behavior is used to predict residential real estate investment decision by evaluate investment attitude towards profitability and financial benefit, emotional and external influence. Other research based on Dengui, Kaber, Sharma and Akinwar, Singh et al., Fon, Yan and Ning um, propose that special factor of infrastructure and accessibility are recognized, but often treated in isolation, not as a part of perceived behavioral control. Other research of Albers, Delima and Scotch, Garay, Jin and Lee, Ramirez and Rubin et al. Propose that financial drivers for residential real estate investors are to pursue capital appreciation, rental income, and urban growth indicator. However, most of these financial studies operate within a rational investor model. And the third one is special drivers based on the Andani, Aulia and Shahri, Korea, Kusuri, Krishna Putri and Salim, Pujiwidya Tusti, Putranto and Lewis, and Sinia et al. Those researchers proposes spatial drivers with residential real estate aspect that influence investor decision making and preference are proximity, infrastructure, and mobility. Other key spatial drivers include amenities, employment center, public safety, and urban development zones. Hassan and Perdana also proposed Islamic values influence investor behavioral aspect of residential real estate investment decision through a Sharia-compliant ethics that influence financial behavior of riba avoidance and location-based religious preference. There are research gaps within those of previous research. The first one is a factor influencing investment location preference. There is limited literature on how private and household investors are influenced by financial, Islamic values, and special driver all together. Form perceived investment potential in specific residential investment location choice within the Jabodetabek area. The second research gap is how Islamic values influence investment location choices. There is limited to none literature of Islamic finance exploring how Islamic ethics and perceived values influence the residential real estate investment and behavior of private and household investors in the Jabodetabek area. Therefore, the objective of this research is to examine how private and household investors evaluate residential real estate investment based on the expected capital appreciation and rental income. The second one is how this research explore to influence Islamic values as subjective norm on investment decision making among Sharia-compliant investors. The third one is how this research is developed to identify how perceived geographical location of accessibility, infrastructure, and urban development affect investor sense of control and influence location preference. And the fourth one is how this research is to map high potential residential real estate areas within Jabodetabek based on the observed variable cited previously based on Sharia-compliant investment preference. These are the proposed framework about how capital appreciation and rental yield used to maximize investment return, which positively influence the investor attitude, and how Islamic values act as a subjective norm, and how accessibility, infrastructure, urban development act as the geographical location aspect and choice, being perceived as a control for the investor to choose which location is it. And all of those three main variable influence how it influence investors' behaviors of decision to invest in residential estate, further influence how private and household investors choose or have a residential estate location preference. The study explored the behavioral dimension of residential real estate investment decision of investment location choice in Jabodetabek, with a specific focus on how private and household investors perceive investment potential through the financial attitude, subjective norm of Islamic values, and perceived special location attributes. The research is expected to contribute to bridging behavioral theory and Islamic values investment preference and further integrating spatial thinking into investment psychology. This research also expectedly helps private and household investors identify potential residential estate location for investment in Jabodetabek, helps developer identify location attributes preferred by Sharia-compliant investors, and socially encourage integration of Islamic values and ethical norms in urban growth strategy, not just economic and infrastructure. The research methodology This research proposed a research methodology of previously started from the phenomena and research background, and further goes into theoretical and previous literature review, then analyzing the research gap, propose the research objective and questions, propose the research methodology, and for this research, the methodology of this research is to conduct a semi-structured interview, thematic analysis and geographical mapping, and analysis reliability and validation tests, and research finding and conclusion. As for the research approach and sampling, this research approach is qualitative adaptive research design with the 20 residential real estate Jakarta marketing agents drawn for Jakarta, Bogor, Depok, Tangerang, and Bekasi regions. As for the sampling rationale, the real estate agents possess a frequent direct interaction with private and household investors and are positioned to observe pattern in observed variable. As for this research, data collection is using a semi-structured interview, audio recorded if consented by the respondent, and this interview will be transcribed narratively constructed from the interview notes, and the transcript profile validated by sharing them back with the participant, and transcript translated from the Bahasa Indonesia to English, with additional context provided for Indonesian specific terms. Then the data collected will be analyzed thematically using a blended approach of inductive and deductive coding with open axial and selective coding, and then it will be interpreted using qualitative response and codes for recurring pattern based on attitudes, which is capital gain and rental yield, subjective norm, which is Islamic values, and perceived behavioral control, which is accessibility, infrastructure, and urban development. Then those data will be scored and weighted using analysis to create a potential residential asset investment location maps using GIS. That's all. Thank you.